Hello and welcome back to the craft hut / art studio. It is a rainy day today. Apologies if you can hear the rain dripping on the roof. There's not very much I can do about that, I'm afraid. Welcome back for the next instalment in my great studio tour and tidy up. What we are looking at today is fabric. So last time, what have we done? We've done sewing patterns, we've done button cabinet and doll's house, and today we are moving on to fabric. All the fabric that I own is stored in here. I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. Unless there's something that I've literally just bought or something that is being washed ready for use. It is all in here. There is a system to storage, and I will explain to you what the current system is in just a moment. There is also an overflow system, which is still in here. It's working relatively well for some of my fabric, but not at all well for other parts of my fabric stash. So that's what I want to do today. I've bought a whole lot of these bags. They are zip bags with see-through vinyl mesh, and I've got some that are A4 size and some that are huge, A3 size. These are things you'll quite often see cross stitchers use as project bags. They work really well as project bags for that sort of small thing that you want to keep relatively flat but also be able to see what's in it. And I'm planning to use these for some of my fabric storage. We'll see how that goes. So let me just start by showing you what there is. It's a mess. I'll just warn you now. Let me start by showing you the current mess. So what I have is these Ikea boxes. There are 4 of them stored in the bookshelves, 2 at the bottom of each bookshelf, and 4 stored in the Hemnes sideboard that I have. So this is the least organised box. You can see there is a little label on the shelf above it. It says art fabric, and that means these are all the sorts of fabrics that I'm never going to make a garment from. I'm never going to make a piece of furnishing from, a cushion cover, anything like that. They are strange fabrics that I'm keeping relatively small pieces of that I might one day use in an art project. So there was a bit of an old shower curtain there. There's felt in there. There are small projects that I've done in the past, like that apple quilt that I don't really use as it is, but one day might use for something else. Vintage pieces of embroidery and lace, fabrics that I've dyed, fabrics that are just offcuts from all sorts of things. So that really is a sort of mishmash box of fabric that might one day get used in some kind of textile art project. You can just see there the dark green glittery fabric left over from my niece's Christmas dress. Now this next box, it says dress fabrics in the label. Yeah, I'm not sure that's quite as accurate a description as it might be. There's quite a lot of remnants in there. That spotty fabric I made a lovely tunic out of that I'm still wearing this summer. That was a beautiful pinafore dress, that gold fabric with the floral. Pinafore out of that denim fabric as well, actually. Bits of fabric in here that I might use for pockets. That was some free fabric that came with a magazine, that floral fabric. I've used it for all kinds of things. I've made a pin cushion, pockets, linings, oh, all sorts of things, and it just seems to go on forever. Fat quarters that people have given me that might come in useful for something one day. So yeah, that's a box that definitely could do with some sorting out, I feel. So the idea with these boxes, they are dress length pieces of fabric or garment length pieces of fabric wound around foam boards that you can then just pin it to, And then it becomes like a mini fabric shop in your house where you can see easily what you've got. You can pull out a mini bolt of fabric wrapped around its board. You can pull them in and out of the box, see what you've got, and see, I think at one point I'd even written labels and pinned to it how wide the fabric is, how much of it I've got, what it's made of, that kind of thing. My jersey fabrics are stored in the same kind of way, wrapped around the boards. These are t-shirting fabrics, sweatshirting, heavyweight fabrics for nice, thick, warm, cozy winter garments or jogging bottoms, lighter weight fabrics for summer t-shirts, and so on. The three fabrics at the end, the navy, the pink, and then there's another pink underneath, are ribbing fabrics that you'd use for collars, cuffs, waistbands, and so on. Very stretchy, very comfortable, looks quite smart. Okay, so I'm not going to take these boxes out just at the moment. This one on the left that I'm pointing to, that's where I store my in-progress garments. You can just about see the rust-coloured fabric there. That's a dress that I cut out last summer. It's really an autumn-winter weight fabric. It's a wool linen blend. It's lovely. So it's not been my top priority to sew while the warmer weather has been there. This next box that's completely overflowing, what's really in there is underwear fabric and all the sort of fixtures and fittings you need for that. You can then see, obviously, this one that's falling over onto the floor. That's where I keep furnishing fabric or home decor fabric. And then finally, this one next to it where it's got the pink bit in front, that's specialty fabric, sequin fabric, waterproof fabric, and so on. Under the desk, I have these two large bins. These are lining fabric and leftovers. One basket is largely woven fabric, and that has quite a lot of lining fabric in it as well, cotton lining, satin lining, and so on. And then the other is largely jersey and sweatshirting fabric, which I used to not really know what to do at all with that, but now I use those leftovers for underwear mostly. This is that box of specialty fabrics that we didn't look at earlier, and I thought I would just show you a little bit of what's in there. There's some velvet, there's beautiful pink velvet cushion cover on the top, some leopard print velvet. That was a project for something I was going to make for a friend, and actually I still might. Leopard print, not absolutely my style. There's some silky fabric here. Again, that was left over, that Chinese brocade from a project. This is a beautiful Liberty print silk, silk challis, I think. I need to find something gorgeous to do with that because it's really lovely fabric. There's that leopard print, which has got a sort of a nap to it. It's not exactly a velvet or a faux fur, but it does have a nap to the surface. And then here's my sequined fabric. This is a gold silver convertible sequin fabric, and then I love these sequined fabrics at the bottom. They're the same fabric in three different colorways. This green, the sort of apricot peachy color. You can see they're really large sequins with the color and then a sort of gold shiny outline to them. I just think they're going to make a fabulous dress one day. And then the pink, I think I've got more of the pink than the green and the apricot here. I'm just going to get it out and show you because it's pink and it's so lovely. So yes, I mean, I don't have a huge need for a sequin sparkly cocktail dress in my life at this point. But when I am invited to be a celebrity on Strictly, I will be there ready with my costume, sparkling like the best of them. So that's what I've got. You can see there is a mess, but there is at least some order underneath the mess. What I don't have, and this is what is sort of prompting me to do this, other than the general need to tidy up, I don't have a place to store patchwork fabrics. Patchwork fabrics often come in really small pieces. Not always, but often you come in really small pieces and you collect really small pieces. And it's worth keeping them in case you want to do a scrappy project. But what tends to happen in my current system is that they just get lost in the big boxes of big pieces of fabric. Some of them are in that art fabric box, which is okay, but not all of them are pieces that I actually would want to use for art projects. I'd want to use them for patchwork or quilting projects. So that's why I thought these bags would work, and particularly probably the smaller size ones. What I'd love to do is go through all my fabrics, tidy everything up, and then get all the fabric that will be suitable for quilting projects in the future and put it in these bags, probably ordered by colour. I might also keep 1 or 2 bags for pieces that are larger quantities, because they're easier to sort through anyway, but certainly smaller pieces, I think it's really useful to have a bag of red, a bag of pink, a bag of green, and then you can pick out and use those in your project. So that is what I am aiming for. I have no idea how long this is going to take or how much of it I can film, but I will certainly show you at the end where we get to. So while you watch me sort out all of this patchwork fabric by colour, I thought I would just answer a question somebody left on a previous video about why I had sorted out my sewing patterns into patterns for woven fabric and patterns for jersey or knit fabric. So jersey or knit fabric has an inbuilt stretch to it. You can get woven fabric with a stretch to it if it's got elastane or lycra, something like that woven into it. But even then it tends to be much less stretchy and have much less natural give to it than a knitted fabric or a jersey fabric. And so a pattern that's designed for a woven fabric needs to be carefully cut to allow your body to move. If it's very fitted to the body in particular, it will need to have some leeway in it to allow your arms to move up and down. Your body changes shape and therefore size when you move it. And a woven fabric that doesn't have any stretch to it won't allow you to have that freedom of movement. So it will need to be cut to give you a little bit of leeway space around the armhole, around the elbow joint, around the waist when you sit down. But a jersey fabric can be cut with much less ease, is how you describe it. It can be cut much closer to the body because the fabric itself can move and stretch with your body as it moves around. Now, there are other factors as well, but that is the main reason why you wouldn't just cut a pattern that's designed for a knit fabric out of a woven fabric. You might not be able to get it on, and you certainly would feel very uncomfortable with it. If you cut a pattern for a woven fabric out of a jersey fabric, you will be able to get it on and you will be able to move around, but it may well not be very flattering. There's also an issue to do with how the fabric drapes. Now, there are different weights of woven fabric and jersey fabrics. There are lightweight woven fabrics, lightweight jersey fabrics, and then much heavier weight jersey fabrics and woven fabrics. But even so, between the two categories, there just is a difference in the way that the fabric drapes and folds and moves. If you're looking at patterns for knit fabric or stretch fabric, very often it will tell you how much stretch the pattern is designed for. 10% stretch, 20% stretch, even up to 40 or 50% stretch. And also whether it's stretch in one direction or in two directions with the grain and across the grain of the fabric. And depending on the kind of garment you're making, it can be really important to get that right. If you're making, for example, sportswear, you know, sort of active wear leggings or crop top or whatever, you need to make sure that that fabric is going to stretch the way that you want it to when your body is moving the way that you want it to. And if the pattern is designed to have a large amount of stretch and you use a fabric with much smaller give in it, then again you may have the same problem as with a woven fabric. It won't give you enough flexibility of movement. The worst that would happen, the seam would burst, everyone would see your pants. So it is a thing to take quite seriously. Okay, so as you can see, I am sorting through these fabrics. I'm just showing you at this point, these are a couple of linen fabrics that I'm not sure I would really do patchwork with, but they're quite nice pieces to do a plique onto. There's not huge amounts of either of them left. I've had that pink fabric for at least 20 years. But that's why they're in this patchwork section, because that's what I'm most likely to use them for, making small pieces, perhaps English paper piecing hexagons or something like that, and then appliquing it onto the linen fabric. There's a pink one there, one that's slightly more lilac-y, and I think that's a kind of off-white neutral fabric at the top. What have I got there? Some white fabric, yeah, again, which I think I would use in that sort of backing kind of way. So at this point I've organised it all, I think, into colours. I've noticed that I've got enormous amounts of blue toned fabric, fair amount of pink toned fabric, smaller amounts of green and yellow, and a surprisingly large pile of neutral toned fabric, beiges and browns. I have no idea why. So this is all my patchwork fabric organised into bags, and pleasingly I've colour coordinated. So this is a bright pink zip, this has got bright pink fabric, pale pink, what have we got? This has got pale blue, darker blue. This grey one has got the grey and the black and the white, yellow and green, and then bright orange has got the sort of beigey browny fabrics in there. So I think that works quite well. It's taken some of the fabric out of the previous storage system, opened up a little bit of space. It is nicely coordinated. It will be very easy to add fabrics into this, either scraps or new fat quarters or yardage, and easy to pick out what I want and use it when I want to use it. So this box will just go on the floor down in front of the box there where I've got the furnishing fabric. That'll be handy to get to, and if I need to get behind it occasionally, that won't be difficult either. So I just want to show you, this is the art fabric box. I mean, it looks a mess, I realise that. This is all felt on this side. Some of this, as you can see, is just bought acrylic felt, but there's also, here we go, some pieces of wool felt, some handmade felt, scraps of that, some needle felted pieces that I've made. And then underneath the felt, there is woolen fabric, tweeds, some boiled wool, that kind of thing. Again, all in scraps. None of this is garment sized. This bag is full of pieces that are finished pieces, but I am reusing or upcycling. So there's some little quilts, some little embroidery pieces, things that I've made years and years and years ago that I don't really like. I'm never going to display, but I might one day use in a different project. This bag is all hand dyed or hand painted fabrics of various kinds. This piece is all lace and sort of old-fashioned lace and embroidery pieces. A lot of these are, I mean, I wouldn't say antique, but maybe vintage, not all of them. And then underneath those two bags, down here, there's a box of all the sort of chiffons and organzas and those kinds of fabrics, lots of which are scraps and offcuts from garments and that kind of thing. This box, I've reorganised this. This is now lining fabric. So a lot of this came out of the basket under the table. So I've got some very fine white muslin fabric there that's excellent for lining summer clothes. I've used these little silicone things to hold together the silky lining fabrics I've got. So I've got those in various colours, which, you know, they don't stay folded up, but I'm hoping they might stay together in those. I've got some cotton lining fabric, and then I've also got in the bottom of there, which is not lining fabric, a few big pieces that I've got of printed linen. I don't know if you can see there with the birds on, that I just didn't know quite where else to put, but they can sit in the bottom of there. Woven fabrics, which I've just put all of those now properly on their rack, so I can easily see what I've got. Same with this box that's got all my jersey fabrics. This is my works in progress box. That dress that's cut out on the top. There's a couple of other works in progress underneath there. These are my lingerie fabrics, underwear fabrics. Lots of this is still loose, but I have taken the time to go through and put all the straps and lace and fittings and bits and pieces into the bag so that they will be A, easier to find, but B, hopefully stop them getting constantly wrapped up around everything else and causing chaos in there. So I make occasional bras. I've yet to make good pants. Yeah, underwear is a tricky business. This box, which had the specialist fabrics in, it still does, but I've added a few other things. That's bra cup fabric, the dark fabric. That's micro fleece, the white fabric that you can see there. Yeah, other bits and pieces that are specialist fabrics of different kinds. And then finally, this was the furnishing fabric at the end, which was reasonably well organised, to be fair, in the first place. So here we are. This was really the motivation behind sorting out my fabric stash at this point. I knew that I wanted to make some of these patchwork blocks. They are stitched onto a fabric backing, as you see there, and the coloured fabrics are just cut in strips of random widths and then sewn across the square in the diagonal. You sew them and then cut it to be the nice square size. So long as your strip goes over the edges of the square, then you're fine to just sew it on, and then once you've covered the whole square, turn it over and chop the edges off. I've cut the squares into 8.5 inch squares so that by the time they're finished blocks they should be 8 inches. And as you put them together, sewn on the diagonal, you can form these kind of diamonds. You see there was a pink diamond and a yellow diamond that I've begun work on, all with a blue border. Some squares are just in blue, and then when the whole thing comes together, it's going to be a quilt for my bed, so the overall effect will be of a blue quilt with occasional flashes of other colours, the pink and the yellow, some orange, some green, maybe a red, one or two, something like that. But I think it's going to look really fabulous. It's going to need a lot of squares. I'm in no hurry to finish it, but it's a fun project to work on here and there. So that is my fabric stash sorted. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for next time when I will be tidying a bookshelf.